Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to our next episode of Masters of Product. Our topic for today is something that's so close to my heart. It is how product leaders can drive AI adoption. Listen, everybody's using AI, but adoption is all over the place. Even within teams, there are super users and there's people who've never touched AI. So I'm really happy in our studio today, we actually have David Pereira, who's going to help us talk just about that. And if you guys don't know about David yet, he is a top fractional CPO, speaker, and thought leader whose mission, by the way, is very close to my own heart, is to help product teams deliver more value while having fun. The fun part is the important part. David has coached organizations like Mondelez, Motorola, Capital One, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a whole bunch of other ones. And he's built a community of over 200,000 followers on social platforms. I need to figure out how he did that. So maybe that's another episode. As for me, I'm your host, Mustafa Kapadia. You know about me. I help product organizations use AI to become more efficient and effective. You can learn more about me and my services at echo-point.com. David, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm excited to be here.
This is
It's
great.
it's a very interesting topic, and I think a lot of people are curious, like how do we bring this to life? And I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yes. So am I. I mean, you and I have talked offline multiple times, so I think this is a great topic. And by the way, we have a LinkedIn Live audience here, so if you guys are listening in, please drop in and let us know where you're listening from. We love to get to know our audiences. And by the way, this is meant to be an interactive session. So while yes, David and I are talking, we would love to have you share your comments, or more importantly, your questions, so we can actually answer them live, and you can see how unscripted this is going to be. Um, while our audience is putting in their locations, David, why don't we start at the beginning? Yes?
Yes.
Every product leader we talk to, well, I talk to, you talk to, have all been like, okay, how do we get AI into our teams, right? And there's two threads to it, right? One thread is people who want to use AI in their products itself or build AI products. And the second thread is how do we actually use AI to be more productive, right? I'm curious to hear, you and I both talk to product leaders all the time. I'm curious to see what you're hearing from them and what are their pain points. And by the way, thank you. We have Arshad from Richmond, Majid from Iran. We have LinkedIn users. Will this be recorded? Yes, it will be recorded. In fact, it's being recorded right now. And we have Khalid from Vancouver, and we have Pranjal from India. Perfect. Welcome all.
Yeah. So
And
what
don't be shy. Drop your questions while Dave and I are talking.
yeah. So what I keep hearing is like exactly the direction you mentioned. People say like, how do I bring this to life? But I see an extreme focus as of now on how do we build features, because everybody wants AI feature.
Right.
So what I hear the most is this, which has some value in it, but I don't see as the highest lever that leaders can benefit. But there are some other leaders who are saying like, all right, how do I bring this to my PMs? I want them to use AI. And although I'm telling them to use it and I'm willing to pay for tools, they're still not using. That's what I hear the most.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think we have gone through a transition just in the last year and a half, in which when first ChatGPT came out, everybody's like, how can I build a product around AI? Or how can I use AI to build my product? And now the focus has shifted to say, wait a minute. Yes, I need to build a product around AI. That's always going to be there. But now how can I use it internally so that we can be more effective and efficient, right? And I think that eye-opening is happening, depending on which sector you are, is happening gradually. In some places, the clients that I have are like super gung-ho, right? I'm curious, and by the way, our audience, please, Arshad, Majid, Khaled, Pranjal, please drop in your questions. When you talk to them about this, have they shared any specific challenges about the adoption piece, other than the fact that yes, we're willing to buy tools, but they're still not using it?
So depending on the place, there is a resistance on what happens to my data. I put something there. Is it available to everybody else? Are we gonna do some? Are we gonna face some issue with data breach or something like this, or
Right.
are we gonna break GDPR policies and so on? So there is a concern on what happens to the data. That's the first thing. But then it is like, how valuable is the result from AI?
Yeah.
So these are aspects that I hear, but I miss one thing, and I tell them all the time the same. I say, "All right, but tell me, what did you try?"
Yeah.
I hear many reasons what could go wrong, but it's missing the practice, because I tell them generally, what you need to do is to move away from theory and go to practice in
Yeah.
smaller things.
Yeah. Completely agree. Um, we have a question from Arshad. Arshad, I'm going to get to your question in a minute. Uh, I hear the same thing. Is like in which we are. We want to use AI, but frankly speaking, people are either resistant to using AI, either leaders are shy about being AI because they're worried about data or they're worried about security. But then when I dig in and I say, well, tell me how you're actually using AI, coming back to what you were saying, right? I will tell you, David, 9 out of 10 times, the way they're using AI is what I call at best surface level. Like when I do these assessments with our teams, with our clients, they're like, the top 3 use cases of AI, do you know what they do? Is first of all is to write emails. Second is to do some kind of summarization, right? And third is to actually do Google searches. And I think that's a great place to start. But then I tell my clients, I'm like, that is like taking a Ferrari and going to the grocery store, right? It is just such a shallow use of AI. And so it's always about the fact is they want to use AI, but they use AI at such a small surface level. And so they're not getting to the results that you're talking about. Because you can get 10 hours of savings at that level,
Yeah.
right? I'm going to go to Arshad. Arshad, I think you had a great question. David, I'm going to have you answer first, and then I'll give you my point of view. So Arshad's question is, how does it get used in a highly regulated industry like banking or healthcare? And Adil, thanks for joining us from Pakistan.
That's the interesting question, because exactly what we're talking about here. People start thinking about the big use of AI. They already go maybe 10 steps ahead, saying like, we're going to connect to our data, to our code, to everything.
Yes.
And how secure is that? I would say this is not a starting point. Generally, I have a different conversation with leaders. I say like, how do you know your teams have a shared understanding? Then
Yeah.
I start hearing things like, actually, I know that there is some confusion now. People understand our business model differently, and I have to re explain that. And then it goes on this. And then I ask, what do you have shared with your team? And say, okay, here is something we can do with AI. Then I start asking other questions, and then they say, oh, okay, but is it possible to do that? And I say,
Yeah.
yeah, we can talk about it, and I can show you how possible it is. So that's when we move a conversation from theory to practice, and we reduce from something very big
Yeah.
to something that is actionable right now.
Yeah. I love that perspective because you're absolutely right. Starting small and finding these use cases that have nothing to do with regulations is key, right? For example, brainstorming new features.
Yeah.
I mean, that you can use AI to do that, right? You can use AI to write user stories, acceptance criteria. You can write parts of the PRD. In fact, you can write it for entire PRD. You can actually do competitive research. You can do things in which it's publicly available information in which you can use it for, right? You can write it to help you with design. You can help it to write you jobs to be done. I mean, there's so much that you can do with AI. The aperture is so large, right? And I go in and I usually say, listen, you're using it for these 3 things. I'm going to show you how you can use it for 100 different things. That is just pure PM type of work or designer type of work. And it does not actually matter with the regulation piece, right? Because you're right, you're not tapping into somebody's data or your own private data. You're usually using AI as a, frankly speaking, the 2 analogies is either like an intern
Yep.
or like a thinking partner, right? So, Arshad, thanks for your comment. I hope that helps. By the way, more questions, please. The more questions you give us, the better it is for all of us. David, if it's okay, I want to switch, right? So
Yeah.
I know we kind of talked about product leaders trying to figure out how they can drive better adoption. But it's not just at the product leader side, right? It's also at the PM side. And what some PMs are just hesitant to using AI, just like the question about security that came up. And that comes up all the time. And by the way, there's ways to work around the security, even in a high regulated industry. Why do you think PMs are hesitating? Or why do you think some PMs are hesitating?
There are different reasons, but the most common reason is I will need to redo the work. Whatever I put there, AI is not going to do something of value, so I need to redo the work. Why would I invest time on that?
Yeah.
It's a certain skepticism level without trying much. And when I ask PM and I ask them to show the prompts I have used, generally I realize the prompts are very superficial. Then, of course, the result is as good as the prompt you have.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think the way PMs usually use AI is that it's a very shallow use, not just from a use case perspective, but how they interact with AI. I'm curious if you've heard of some of these other reasons, because I have a list of top 10, but I'll focus on 3. Because I just wrote an article about this like a few weeks ago. The first one is AI going to take my job away? Right? I get that all the time, right? And I'm going to get, so that was the first one. Second is that I just don't know how to use AI, which comes back to your point earlier. And third is the security and data concerns that we talked about, right? By the way, Browin, thank you for joining from Glasgow. Perfect. I actually love that city. It's one of my favorite cities. So David, please, have you heard, what do you think? I mean, about the first one, seems to be very popular, right? It's AI is going to take my job away.
I was about to mention this when you asked the question, which is one of them. Some PMs don't mention, but is one of the reasons. Like there's a fear, and some PM I know they mention immediately. Yeah, is AI gonna take my job? Should I be worried? Is my job gonna be another thing in the future? What I say is AI can amplify your potential, and generally,
sorry, by the way, while David is answering, if you have reasons why you think PMs are not adopting AI, please drop it in the chat. Sorry, go ahead.
No problem. And generally, what I say is like, it's very simple. If we look a few years from now, what I believe is those leveraging AI will outperform those ignoring it.
Yeah,
And it's
without a
probably
doubt.
those who ignore it, they will become less relevant in the market.
Yeah, 100% agree, right? Part of the fear is what you talked about earlier, or fear of AI taking the job is what you talked about earlier, because it's all in their head. It's all theory, right? What if AI does it for me? Do I really need to be a PM? What if it makes all the decisions for me? And then when you actually show them how PMs use, how what I call the top 1% PMs, by the way, shout out to our podcast last that we did, in which we actually talked about how the top 1% PMs use it. And if you guys have not seen it, you should go to David's Substack and take a look where we actually showcase how PMs are using it. But when we share with them or show them how the top 1% PMs are using AI, they're literally shocked, because then they realize it's a reframe of the mindset, right? It goes back to this AI being this nebulous, scary thing, to saying, oh, wait a minute, I can actually use AI to analyze my customer data. Wait, I can use AI as a coach to help me navigate through my organization, write OKRs, and get better, effective meetings with my manager. I can use AI to build prototypes. And so it now suddenly goes from being this scary, nebulous thing to a tool that will actually just make their life easier, right? And I'm going to give you an example. We just finished an engagement with a client. They have about 60 some odd PMs. And when we started out with the client, most people were using those 3 things. We're using AI for those 3 things. And then I did an assessment for them, and I showed them what's going on, and we put through a whole program. And by the end of the day, they're using AI to basically any task that you can think of as a PM, they're now starting with AI, right? That mind shift change, by the way, was tremendous only because, sometimes you need to see it to believe it, right? And so I think it comes back to what you said earlier, is just they need to just start using it, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious what our audience thinks. Please jump in. So if you have these two dynamics, product leaders want their teams to use AI. Teams are kind of using AI. They're hesitant. Some are super users, some are not. What's the right thing to do? How do product leaders go and drive that adoption? How do they get them to become from AI novices to AI power users?
What I have realized is the classic thing.
Yeah.
So lead by example, not by
Yeah.
words. So take action. So as a leader, what are you doing to use AI? When I talk to them, I start showing some examples, which I have some prepared here. And then from the
Yeah.
example, I tell them like, start doing things. And if they start doing, teams will follow, because teams don't want to be behind the leader. They want to be together with the leader. So if it is becoming important for the leader, where the leader is showing the action and enabling the team, because there's one thing, you
Right.
start using it and then you start enabling the team. You need both.
Yeah. I think showcasing and being a leader who's actually using it is a huge impact, right? And even something as simple as when you assign somebody some work, you can say, "Hey, did you use AI for this?" Right? Simple things like that can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Right? Buying the right tools, and by the way, there's a question about tools. I'm going to get to that from Colin. Buying the tools actually helps, because there's only so much that you can do with free tools. And if you buy the enterprise tools, then you don't have to worry about the privacy thing. And then, of course, putting together a classic change management program, right? It's amazing that I think in the organizations, we need to continue to do that in order to drive adoption, because you know how this is going to go, right? Some people are going to use it. Some people are just not going to touch it, right? Khaled, you had a question about, let me just put it up on the screen. So companies like Microsoft or Google can play a huge role in adoption of AI tools. They solve the issue of privacy and security for enterprises migrating with cloud. So what's the difference with AI tools? Is it the maturity of the tools? I'm not sure if I understand this question correctly. Are you talking about what adoption is low because of privacy concerns? Maybe that's where your angle for. David, I'll let you go first. You're the guest.
No,
But
I think from what I get from this question is about the private concerns company would have to use AI, which I think you answered with the thing of, if you move away from the free tools to the enterprise, you can already avoid the privacy issues, because you can say that you don't want the tool to use the data to be trained. And for example, Google Gemini also has some principles that for enterprise, no data is shared. So they are secure. But for the public, it's different.
I completely agree. I think the set of tools you buy, especially free versus private, or a free versus paid, and enterprise version, can make a huge difference. And by the way, it unlocks a whole new set of capabilities. For example, projects are only available on the paid version. The ability to share your GPTs or share your prompts with other parts of the team members are also available on the paid version. So there's a lot of benefits other than just security that comes with it, right? And then if you start using something like Glean, then you can actually connect it to your own data, right? And then Glean just works like an enterprise search piece. We have another comment from Arshad on, let's get that on the screen. Arshad, almost every product or project role I see today listed has something to do with AI in the descriptions or in the requirements section. 100% agree. David, I'll let you take it first.
Yeah, as I mentioned, AI is not the future, it's the present. So from now on, companies are transitioning, and the ones that they bring to the team, they want to bring people who are at least
Yeah,
equipped with AI already.
yeah. This is going to be like, there was a time in which people used to say, I'm proficient in Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, right? And that used to work 20, 25 years ago when companies were looking for that type of skill. And I think we are now getting to the point at which companies are actively asking for it. Part of it is aspirational because they themselves have not been able to get there. So they want to get people who know how to use AI into their teams so that they can be contagious and spread to the rest of the teams. So I think this is, if you're a product manager, if you're a designer, you need to be able to learn AI and to be able to use it proficiently and well in order for you to really shine out, right? And by the way, that window of standing out is short because what's going to happen? What happens with Microsoft Word and Excel after some time? Everybody knows it, right? And so you lose the competitive advantage. So, highly recommend you guys start using it and master it. We have another one from LinkedIn user. I also add that only a few of the LLM players can truly offer secure AI private deployments through. I agree. Part of it is really understanding how AI works. Like when you add information to AI, it's not like it's storing the documents, even in the in the free version. Um, it's not storing that information. What it's doing is it's using that data to train their model more and more, right? But it's not like if you put a document in, it's storing it in some kind of server, because that just would be just the amount of space it would need is unimaginable. I don't think so you would actually do that. Um, with the paid versions, you can explicitly tell it not to train it on your data. And so there are more secure deployments that you can use, just a matter of what tools you end up using. Right, perfect. Good questions, guys. Please continue. Let's go down to say, okay, we talked. So let's get a bit more practical.
Yeah.
Right. So we kind of talked about, product leaders want to do this. Some product managers are hesitant. We have this idea about starting small and then growing, right? I'm curious because I know you shared this with me last time. I'm curious if you can share that same story. Is like you had a conversation with the product leader. How did you tell them what's the best way to get started?
The best way to start is to show. So generally what I like is showing. Like I remember talking to a product leader saying like, yeah, I read about the tools nobody's using
Yeah,
and I don't know what to do. And then I asked, how are you using? And the product leader said, well, I expect them to use it because they
yeah,
are close to the business and I am empowering them. I said, no, that is cool. You are empowering them, but what are you doing? And then we start talking and then we went on something you mentioned already, competitive analysis.
yes,
And I said, let's do a competitive analysis. And then I showed the result. And then he looked at me, seriously? We can get this kind of result in
yeah,
just a couple of seconds? I didn't even use a deep research function. I used a simple one. I can show the prompt here. I will use another company just to keep this one private, but we can play around here. Let
yeah.
me just share the screen here. So for
Perfect.
example,
And while you're setting it up, by the way, I had a similar conversation with the CPO, and he's like, "I need to hire somebody to do deep research," or well, he didn't say deep research, but competitive research. I'm like, "Why don't I do it for you right now?" And we ended up doing a deep research in which he got PhD quality results in no time. By the way, go ahead, David, please.
yeah. So I have here my prompt, and I'm asking to ask product manager who start creating content and so on. So I wanted to evaluate Substack and competitors and share some things here.
Yeah.
So I'm using the Pro version of ChatGPT and making a simple comparison here. And you can already see some details, like as a product manager who creates content. So I'm taking the perspective of someone using the platform and comparing the competitors. Like,
Yes.
why would you use? What resonates with you? What confused? Why would you sign up? What blocks you? And we already have some information here that is quite relevant. And that took us how long? Maybe 5 seconds.
Less
And
than
here we
that,
have
yeah.
suggestions to reduce friction. And there's a reason that I asked for several suggestions, because I want people, as we talked last time, Mustafa, to look at this. So they broaden the perspective, and then they may select one or another thing to move on. So it's a simple prompt, but I'm being more precise on what I want instead of just saying do a competitive analysis. Because if you ask something like this, do a competitive analysis, you get whatever the machine decides to do. But in this case, I want something specific. And after this, the leader started looking at me. I can do that. And the leader started looking and said, oh, this is valuable. This is something I can follow up upon, and so on and so on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think simple exercises really open your mind. And by the way, David, you're not giving yourself credit. Let's go back to the way you wrote the prompt.
All right, so let's go back to the way.
Yeah. So if you think about it, it tells you, David's done quite a few tricks here to give him credit. I want you to act like a product manager who has started creating content. So it's giving AI a role. By the way, if there's anything if you want to make a big difference in the quality of responses, give AI a job. And that's exactly what David has done. He's given AI a role or a job, right? Then it's given it a task, like explore the Substack and its competitors. And then it's telling it exactly what it means to explore, right? So he's giving more definition in which its product, what resonated with you, what confused you, and so on and so forth, and provide 10 suggestions. Just this simple way of asking can give you much better results than just saying that, hey, can you give me Substack competitors? Because that's how most people think about it, right? It's a simple question. So David, you need to give yourself more credit. But you're absolutely right. I think it comes back to, I think it just comes back with having an open mind and being and experimenting, right?
Yeah.
I think what, at least with the leaders I have, is, I kind of show them the whole gamut, which, by the way, I'm going to plug David's Substack again, in which we actually walk through the entire life cycle, all the way from identifying a user problem, figuring out if it's a problem worth solving, building a PRD out of it, and then creating a clickable prototype of it. And I show that to leaders, and they're literally floored. They're like, "Well, we can do that." I'm like, "Not only can you do that, but your rest of your team can do that too, if they just figure out how to do it." So, David, do you have anything else to show before I take this? Go ahead, please.
Let's go on something else, because I guess.
And Arshad, I know you have a question. I'm going to get to you. Don't worry.
Let's talk about something else, because people, for example, are getting a bit tired sometimes of ChatGPT and similar, but you can use AI in different aspects. So what am I going to show here is to create a business model. So many people do not understand their business model, and they say, yeah, it takes a lot of time to create a link canvas.
Right.
So you get to the understanding. So for example, one of the things is that you can create your, how do you call it, Mustafa? Your playbook. You call the playbook.
Yes.
Yeah. So I call it my
prompt, a library of prompts, basically. Yes.
Yes. So for example, I have here a library of prompts, and I can share with you that this is just a simple one. And I'm gonna ask here to create a simple business model. So for example, I can go here on Miro and use the AI, and I want to create a doc in this case. So what am I gonna do? I will put the prompts that I just copied here, and I'm creating a business model for a startup that I worked with. And
Nice.
what's going to happen? So, of course, I gave a lot of context. As you can see, I gave the trick here, how I want to perform, what are the tasks, and the context, and the result I want. And
Yeah,
then,
and by the way, David is using another great trick in which if you want to ask the questions, if you how you ask questions matter, and some of these questions can be quite long, just like what David did, right? So for you to recreate those questions all the time is a pain. Nobody wants to do it. So David has created a playbook or a library of prompts that he can then just copy paste. This way, he writes it once and reuses it again and again and again. So
yes.
these are great best practices. Please.
And then look at the result. It's a written format of a link canvas, which I could quickly convert that to
Yeah.
the one page. But when I worked for this company. If I look to the result here, it has a lot to do with what happened. And here I have the whole document with a link canvas with all the 9 blocks, which I could use.
Nice. Yeah.
So isn't this useful and saving a lot of time?
Exactly.
And what I tell many leaders is it might not reflect exactly how you are working, but this is a starting point. You can use that to criticize and leverage. But if you ask people to create a link canvas from scratch, maybe we are talking about 4 hours. And within this, you probably are talking about 30 minutes.
Yeah. And by the way, 4 hours to build a document like that, it takes you 4 hours to just think what you're going to write before you actually have to write it. Right. And I guarantee you, when you showed this to the leader, they were flabbergasted, right? They were like, "Oh my God, I can't believe we did this in a short amount of time."
Yes.
And you're absolutely right. This is the first draft. This is not the final draft. But the fact is that you actually have a starting point makes a huge difference, right? David, I know you're going to show more, but let me get to Arshad's question. He's been
Sure.
Right. So Arshad, thank you for that question. As a product manager, hold on, let me get this going. As a product manager myself, what tools should I train myself on at my own leisure at home, and what that I can share with the company that I have AI experience? I'm thinking something I can feed my own personal data set and create models. David, please.
So it's about the stars when you talk about to companies, like how you use AI. For example, if I think on a toolbox, it's more like you need something to be your sparring partner. So I use ChatGPT sometimes to bounce ideas, to explore things, to do competitive analysis. And then you need to create something else, like really to code, to get things out to you test with user. Go with some tools like, for example, Bolt, Lovable, or something like that, and end-to-end. And maybe you want something to diagram and so on, you can use Miro for that. But the thing is, it's not really about the tool, it's about the stories you share. When people talk to me, for example, they say, how do you use AI in your day-to-day? I tell them, it's easier for me to tell where I don't use AI.
It is becoming that, yes.
Yeah, it is becoming that. I give you an example, very simple. I went to the doctor. I did a full blood checkup and so on. And I have to wait for 3 weeks to get the appointment with the doctor to talk about the results. But I have the blood results already. So what would I do with that?
Yeah.
I uploaded and I had a conversation with my private doctor, which showed me a lot of things there. And it looked good. And I asked promptly, if I want to improve that, given my lifestyle, what should I do? And I got a lot of information. And then I saw a lot of value in that. So I came to the consultation with the doctor 3 weeks later, way better prepared. And the doctor told me more or less the same that I knew already. And there were some things there, and I smelled something different. And then I started saying, but what if I do that? What would happen? The doctor said, well, that's also something good. You could consider that. So, So that's what I do today. So I always think about what could I do with AI first.
Yeah. I agree. I think you are, well, me too. In fact, I don't think there's a task that I start without AI. It's kind of getting to the point in which that, and by the way, you can download Claude and ChatGPT on your mobile phone, so that's even better if you want it on the go, or you can do a lot of typing. But even Arshad, if you don't want to start with a product management task, start with your own personal task, right? I mean, the chatting with your medical information to figure out what, how to read it is a great way to do that, right? And by the way, I'll give you another example. Our family took a trip to Spain last year, and I actually had AI build the entire itinerary for me because I have 3 boys, and each one of those boys, I love them, but they all have weird taste. I shouldn't say weird. They have great taste, but different tastes in food, and they have different likes and dislikes. And I actually put it all into AI, and what it did was it gave me a great itinerary for Barcelona and Madrid. It gave me the points in which places to eat based on their preferences. It gave me what to do. It to the point at which it almost got too restrictive, in which it says, okay, here's what you should do at 9 a.m. Here's what you should do at 10 a.m. But start something simple like that. Start something simple like whatever you want to be able to talk to, right? And I think that's a great example. And then you can graduate. And what happens when you start using it is you get a feel of how AI is, right? I like to use the intern analogy again because what means that you end up understanding, just like when we talk to people, we kind of know how to talk to different people, right? We know that if you talk to this person, it's better to talk this way. If you talk to this person, it's better to talk this way. And so you get a feel of how to communicate. And I want you to get to that feeling of how you communicate. And that's going to help you become better at AI and push the limits. Let me get more practical. By the way, please add more questions. We only have about 7 or 8 more minutes, and then we're going to end. So if you have any questions, let's put them in. I'll get more practical. I'll to your question about tools. If there's 2 tools that I would recommend, ChatGPT, like David mentioned, and Claude. And by the way, I do both of them. I run the same question in both tools simultaneously, so I can get 2 different results. And a lot of it is overlapping, but there's enough nuances there that I can pick up. And then I take this information from here, and I take this information from here, and I cross-pollinate. And that's when you're really starting to push the limits of each large language model.
I have 2 more examples.
Yes, please.
One is related to this you just shared, but I'll leave this one as the last one. But let's take a common scenario that happened with many people.
Yeah.
You are about to join a new company, or you have just joined. So what do you do in this case then? So for example, let's say you want to understand the product, have a customer journey, and so on. For example, here you can create a customer journey. I will create one diagram here, and I will go with.
Sorry, let me put I apologize. Let's put that up.
Yeah. So for example, let's say we are gonna create. I put a long prompt here because you joined Easy Travel. It's a company that I made up, and here's the context of the company. I put everything that you know. Put some quotes already from some users that left reviews, and then you want to have a flow. So how would that be? You can start from this and see how it looks like. And here we go. So you start having something already. You see? It can give you the starting point. You don't start from zero. Your ad would have a flow here that represents your journey based on AI, how AI interprets that. That's an example. And I like doing that because it helps you to start small. Because I've done this exercise with many PMs, and they get lost in details. Although I tell them, whatever journey you're going to create, start with verbs. But then they go very quickly to many things. And here can help you have a starting point with a simple prompt on imagining how your journey would be. And you can create in different ways. That was just a simple one.
This is great. And you just use the native AI in Miro. That's it, which makes it so much easier for then you can edit and change things moving forward, right? I think this is good. I know we're almost out of time. Usher, thank you for your kind words. I'm glad you found this helpful. If you guys have any last minute questions, please let us know. David, I think you already asked the final question that I ask all my guests is how to use AI daily. But I think your comment that you have to now think about what you're not using AI is becoming even more harder, right? To do.
Maybe I share another story, a bit funny, that
Yes,
happened
please.
with
We have
me
time.
with a very good result. 2 weeks ago, I was in London, and then something funny happened with my sneakers. It was a new pair of sneakers, and start clipping. And that's pretty annoying. It was really new and start clipping. I didn't know what to do. So I asked AI, my sneaker is clipping and blah, blah, blah. What should I do with that? And I put the brand and I put the date I bought
Yeah.
and everything and so on, and a picture of it. Then AI said, this is a common thing that happened with this kind of on
Oh, wow.
sneakers. And here are some things you could start doing. And if that doesn't help you, you can write to own, because they are known for their customer happiness. There's a big chance they are gonna give you a voucher of the same value of the sneaker.
There you go.
Here is how you contact them, and you can write this text. I did exactly that. It took me about 1 minute. 2 weeks later, I had a voucher, and On told me, you can keep the old sneaker or donate it, but you can just buy a new one for your taste.
That's awesome. There you go. AI can actually save you money. Actually, you bring a very important point, and we'll end on this note, is that yes, it's great to use AI, and I think it's very important to use AI, but just as important, it is to be able to tell the story about how AI helped you, right? Just to David's point, and I think he made that point earlier too, is AI is great, and right now using AI is quote unquote very sexy, but using AI for AI's sake is not going to be enough. You have to be able to talk about how it actually helped you. And it could be as simple as how much time it saved me, how it gave me better results than before, so the quality, or how about speed, right? Time, speed, and quality. If you can actually articulate that, actually, I'm going to go back to your earlier question is, or somebody else asked about in job requirements. If you're in an interview and you can say, I use AI to do this, and by the way, because I used AI to do this, it helped me save X amount of hours, sped up the process, and give me better quality. That's how you actually how you communicate value, right? So thank you, David, for your analogy, because you're right on. Because it's not just about what it did, but the fact is that you actually had an outcome that was positive.
Yes.
Right. This is good, David. You and I can talk about it till the cows come home. Any last piece of advice to our audience here about how to get started?
Think about the real problem that is happening, something that is disturbing you, and then try solving that with AI. You can be quite surprised if you open up the results you can get. And from there, you will remove this friction of trying out. As Mustafa said, you're going to learn how it works, and then you can get real with that, more benefits and more natural. That's the objective. How do you get natural? It's by trying out with things that matter to you.
I think that's a perfect. Take any scenario, work or non-work, try it out. It doesn't matter. Start with asking a simple question. You're going to get better and better at asking questions with AI, but it's just do something and then see what happens, and hopefully it will surprise you. And when that surprise happens, then when you know that you're hooked.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much for our audience. Thanks for being around. David, thank you very much. I always enjoy these conversations. We'll have to, like I said, we can talk about this forever. So we'll have to do
Yeah, for sure.
thank you guys. Bye for now.
Thank you.